Hey, everybody, we're just waiting a little bit to make sure everyone who signed up can get into the room.
So this is your time off request?
Looks like we might be there. So hello, everyone. I'm assuming you can hear me right now, so hopefully that's the case. If not, throw us up a flag on the chat room and tell us. So the way we'll do this is we're going to run through the slides. At any point, if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A, right? So y'all know how to do that. Use the Q&A, not the chat. And Jacqueline will be monitoring the Q&A and sort of act as the MC, pausing myself or other folks are throwing around those questions as we go to make sure we're answering them in real time. Also, we're recording this if you want to go back to it later or if you're deciding to view it later. And that will be posted to YouTube. We will send out a link via email. We'll also have that link included in the daily digest so that you'll know where you'll need to go to be able to find this. And so you'll be able to look at that going forward. And then if any of you have questions that don't get answered today or something that you just don't want to ask about publicly, please reach out to any of us in the CDO, primarily myself, Jacqueline, Heidi, and Professor Holbrook. And we are certainly happy to walk through these slides and any other questions you have unique to your situation. So please feel free to start asking questions in the Q&A. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the slide show. Share screen. All right. So we're going to cover a pretty focused set of topics here that we will be sending out a presentation, hopefully by the end of the week, that will talk about how you formulate a detailed job strategy. I know everyone's going into finals and we want you to be focused on that. We know you have a lot of things going on at home and elsewhere. And so as you're dealing with that, obviously we're here as a resource. Dean Marshall, Student Affairs with Dean Marshall and Jaron are another fantastic resource. Please don't hesitate to tap into those things. And if there are, again, unique situations you have, please don't hesitate to ask for our help. So what's COVID-19 mean? So look, the legal economy is going to experience a significant change. I think that we're fairly confident about that. In the last Great Recession, the big change was the way the legal economy was structured, and a lot of work that used to be done by first years in firms went out, which is when you had things like document review companies sort of rise. There was also the adoption of a lot more AI and those sorts of things. And I think we're going to see similar things, although they'll be unique to this crisis, happen. And so that's one of the truths. Some of the, some practices, at least for a while, are going to expand. So jobs and things like bankruptcy will probably move up. Some of the tech areas that have become pretty critical to the new will move up. And so you may find as you're going forward that you want to be flexible in looking at opportunities. And realize that opportunities you may not have thought of may be ones that satisfy you. I will give the example of I was a bankruptcy attorney, and about half my life was like being a transactional lawyer. About half of it was being a litigator. And it was interesting because I was working, I was both in court almost every week as a brand new attorney, which for me was really exciting. But I was also looking at how do you make deals to keep companies running. So in that way, it's more like a transactional position. I also think something we saw out of the last Great Recession was that JD Advantage jobs really rose as a part of the opportunity set that JDs were taking advantage of. It's not that you're going to have to take a JD Advantage job, it's that you may want to. Oftentimes for people, for example, who are interested in business, this is closer doing a JD Advantage job, say as a consultant with someone like Ernst & Young, maybe much more in your wheelhouse of the things you really are passionate and love, than being in a law firm doing similar work for similar kinds of clients, but from a different perspective. So you want to be open to that, those opportunities, and there's some ability to move back and forth, although there are some challenges. We'll walk you through that. And then look, some of this is going to be frustrating, doubtless. You have all done an extraordinary job moving online, and that's a huge skill set that's going to be critical going forward. In Professor Holbrook's research, he has really come, I think, to the conclusion. I'm going to put some words in his mouth. He can give me a dirty look if I'm wrong, but that the future is going to look a lot more like this looks, in the sense that now you can be remote and working with clients. And so this is actually a valuable skill set in some ways. So what are we doing? We've been doing a lot of research into the legal economy. Primarily, Professor Holbrook and I have been looking into that. We're sort of on point for that for the professor. And then, you know, Heidi and Jacqueline have been reaching out to all of you individually, trying to find out where you're at, what's going on, what's the future look like for you, what are your specific needs now. We are actively reaching out to firms on your behalf, talking to them about everything from how to run an effective summer program remote, to try and encourage them to make sure that they continue their summer programs, but also talking into things about, talking to them about things like, how do you engage students when they may be remote for the summer and you may not get to see them as much, or I suppose potentially at all. So we're working hard on that front. We're also working hard on the front of the new proposed rule for diploma privilege plus, which dropped just last week, and that's obviously in discussions now and its comment period. And we'll be talking to firms about that as well. Happy to answer questions in all of those. JD Advantage jobs, I'm going to emphasize again, those may be essential places to launch a career. They certainly were in the last recession. And we could talk to you about that, although that may not be an imperative, right? So let's not get too concerned about it, but let's make sure we're aware of it. And then in terms of reaching out to us, always sooner rather than later, we're always here for you. So the first category of folks, you have a job in this case, right? But you want to understand, is it still going to be available for the summer or post-grad? And so how do you ask that question? So in terms of timing, I think you really want to ask now and not wait, right? So if you're waiting to ask that question, what you may find is that you're trying to make plans, they're trying to make plans, and it turns out you could have helped each other had you just talked a little bit sooner. And so I would say reach out to them now. But when you reach out with a plan. Don't just reach out to say, hey, what's happening this summer? My recommendation is, imagine that you were going to call them and you got voicemail, so you wanted to follow up with an email. Draft that email. That email will be a great outline for when you call them. And then you can talk through the details. If you're not comfortable with a call because maybe you don't know them that well, or it gives you some anxiety, an email is fine. So you could go down that road too. So either way, drafting the email is helpful. And there are things you want to emphasize, right? One, the ability for you to work successfully remotely, demonstrated through what you've been doing now. As I note here, your flexibility to meet their changing needs. And so in that regard, it's, maybe you really want to do transactional, it's going to be a little more litigation, or you want to do more litigation, it's going to be more tax or transactional rather. Maybe you really want to do estate planning, but there's a little more need on the tax side. Maybe they have clients who are getting money through the CARES Act, right? That's that big federal act that just passed that injected a bunch of money. And so you may be doing sort of regulatory administrative law, looking at that and making sure that their clients are able to access those funds. The idea is to indicate to the firm that you're ready and willing to step in and do whatever they need. And that's true whether you're a 3L and you're going out there as a new grad with the diploma privilege, or whether you're a summer student, be it a 1L or a 2L. The other thing is tell them that you have a home office that's ready to go, right? You figured out how to do this. And then remind them under the new bar admission rule that hopefully is finalized, that you're going to be able to be available immediately. And we think, although every firm's gonna have to look at that individually, that they can bill for your time as you're doing that, and so that they can start making money by bringing you in sooner rather than waiting. And then there's a note there. This is one of the best things I learned as a new lawyer, and I think every new lawyer learns this, is one of the best lessons you can have is that when you're going to bring a problem or an issue or a concern to a partner you work for or to the law firm you want to work for, it's really helpful if you can bring alongside that some possible answers, right? So that's what this stuff is before. Think about all the ways you can still help them and support them in your flexibility. So write down your questions. Remember, it's a huge challenge for them. So some of this is you may not get an answer you were hoping for, right? You might get an answer that says your program is going to be delayed by several weeks, several months. It may be cut to a half of summer. In some cases, it could even be rescinded. If that's the case, it's really important that you be professional, and not just professional in the sense of, well, I didn't yell at them, but professional in the sense of having real empathy for the situation that they're in. You are all overwhelmed in many ways. They are all overwhelmed in many ways. And I will tell you, the psychological trauma at law firms in the last recession, when they, which I don't think is going to be the case for us, but when they did may have to make rescissions of offers and they had to defer people out a year, it caused immense anguish in firms. So it's not just a business decision for them. It really is personal. So empathy there will help you. And it's going to help you down the road, because these are going to be the people who may ultimately still hire you or bring you on anyway. And they're also going to be your colleagues. Be flexible. We talked about that. Be prepared if the program is modified in terms of hours or the financial remuneration. And for example, if it's hours, maybe they're going to move it only to the second half. If you're a student, we have resources so that maybe you could take classes during the first half, or maybe you could do some pro bono experiences, some research for a faculty person, either paid or unpaid, for credit or not for credit, but get some really good experience and things we can add to the resume. And we can help you with that and think through that in the CDO. So I'm not going to go through these emails in detail, but this is an email that you would use. This is primarily really directed at 2Ls and 3Ls for how you ask, right? And ask politely. And we've had several people take a pass at this, and including Professor Heine, who keeps reminding me that sometimes I end a sentence with in a way that's inappropriate. So you can trust that these are well written, but don't copy these exactly, because if every law firm gets these, that's going to be weird. No one's asking questions. I must be a really, really good speaker. Does anyone have anything? Oh, well, let me show the next email. And so then this is the next one. This is really more for the 3Ls, right? So you want to find out if the program is happening, let them know about the diploma privilege, which they probably know about. Some firms, by the way, are not thrilled with diploma privilege, or at least some partners at some firms, for whatever reason. But nonetheless, what it does mean is that you can jump into your job much sooner. We don't have the exact date. It depends on the date you're certified, and that we'll get that to you soon. But what it'll mean is you can start there in the summer, right? Assuming this rule that has been proposed is implemented. You can start there in the summer, and by the end of the summer, at some point in that window, have your license fully in hand. And in the interim, if it's, for example, a for-profit firm, they could be billing for your work, we think. And if you're at a not-for-profit, you could be helping clients at a public interest position. So this is a way to ask those questions and ask them in detail. I'm going to pause here and see if anyone on the CDO team has anything to add to this section. Yes? No? No. All right.
I have nothing to add. You're doing a great job. Press forward.
Heidi is really nice to me, because I'm fragile these days. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's go back. So this is, right, if your offer gets rescinded. We have seen this only happen in just a very small number of cases, like I think less than a handful, which is good news. But look, this thing is evolving, and no one really understands how long the stay-at-home orders are going to be in place and other things. So there may be more coming. I don't want you guys to freak out about it, but let's address the issue head on. And if it does happen, right, it's okay to be frustrated. Be absolutely cordial and lovely with the employer on the phone or by email or whatever, and then immediately call one of us and let us jump in and dig in all the resources to help you. I'll tell you, this is front of mind for the dean. It's front of mind for the other faculty. All right, if you find out your offer's been rescinded, like I said, be really, really gracious. Understand that they are suffering through this just how you are. And I get the perspectives are different, but it's important, right? If you need an income out of that and now you're not going to have an income, all the more reason to reach out to us immediately. We'll help you figure that out. And to be clear, and I've said this, I think earlier in sort of similar situations, if you need an income, right? If you need to pay bills, that is the first priority, and it doesn't matter what the job is, right? So, if the job is working for Smith's as a shopper for their online shopping program, then that's fine. Like, that's a brilliant job. You're paying bills, and then we'll figure out another way to get you legal experience. And I really want to emphasize that for everyone in every situation. You got to take care of yourself and your obligations. It will affect your ability to sit for the bar. But frankly, it's also good to eat because, starvation's not a winner. So I want you all to know that, and that and not to denigrate those opportunities or to think that somehow there'll be a mark against you. And in fact, I will tell you that I can show you how to sell those to an employer in the future to show your resiliency, and your real commitment to doing what's right. And I think it will be a mark in your favor. So whatever you need to do, reach out to us, we'll help you do it. When they go away, you definitely want to be gracious, demonstrate character, and they may end up changing their mind, right? One of the things I think Professor Holbrook and I have seen is the economists are generally saying, yeah, we think this is going to be a tough recession, but it could be a tough recession that lasts a year or 6 months or 3 years, and no one knows because it's not the economy that fell apart, right? It's this weird COVID thing. And if they get that squared away, the economy could come roaring back. So you really do want to be gracious in the way you handle it, and then be nimble and creative, right? I know you're going to get frustrated. It's okay to be frustrated. I want you all to trust us. We're here. We have seen this before. I came into this to help a school coming out of the last recession. Jacqueline worked in the CDO through the last recession and really has a deep body of knowledge. Professor Holbrook understands that because he was a working attorney through that time. And Heidi has made a deep dive and gotten a huge amount of information and learned a ton and is ready to share it. And we're all here to support you collectively. And sometimes we'll even do group calls, right? Where I'll be on the phone with Jacqueline or with Heidi talking to a student, because sometimes you have more people brainstorming, it works out better. We're here to serve you. But one of those things is you've got to be nimble and creative and ready to make a change. Here's again, some sample emails for you to use, and the idea is to empower you to do this. Adjust this as you need, and certainly reach out to us to help you do that. This again is for students looking for a summer gig. I think it's gracious. I think it's short. Short is good. And it sort of lauds the firm, and then make it obviously easy for them to contact you. Here's the 3L version. For the 3Ls, the 360 privilege, or the diploma privilege, rather, diploma privilege plus, however it's implemented, I think it'll be implemented, but we'll know by next week. I think that's going to be an opportunity, even if something gets rescinded, for us to help you either A, make sure that we get your license in the quickest way possible with really good experience, but also it's going to make us really competitive, right? Because for law schools, unless there's another state that's going to go to a diploma privilege system like ours, they're probably not going to sit for the bar in July. I don't think anyone's going to sit for the bar in July in the country, which means they may sit for the bar in August. And so they're looking at bar results maybe by the end of the year. And so you'll be in the market ahead of them. So if your offer is rescinded and you're a 3L, it's not optimal. I get that. But we've got a strategic advantage over the competition, and so we'll want to step in and support you. So please engage us as soon as possible. And then if you're looking for a job, right? Number one, reach out to us immediately. I know that Jacqueline and Heidi have been reaching out to everyone. I've made a few calls. Professor Holbrook has made some calls. But let us know if your job offer goes away, if you're still searching, if you got an offer but you're not happy with it. That's why we're here. And for existing students, there's obviously summer classes, research opportunities, externships, volunteering, and all sorts of mixes. But for the 3Ls, there's also opportunities for us to immediately engage and start tapping into resources. I was just reached out to by a firm that's a national firm with offices everywhere. And they reached out specifically because of diploma privilege, right? Having identified that, they're like, wow, we could bring in someone earlier and we need litigators, right? And so there may be some opportunities there. So, it's not going to be necessarily easy, but there are still opportunities. And because of the real forward thinking of the Utah Supreme Court and the hard work of your dean and Professor Heine and their peers at the Y, it looks like we're going to get diploma privilege for the 3Ls, and that's a huge win. Still no questions. I'm going to say it again, right? Let us know that you're thinking. You got to think really broadly about jobs, and we have a process for doing that that's helpful, right? That will help you to sort of open your eyes up to the world of opportunities. but also to prioritize what you want from your life, right? So the job is not everything, or maybe it is everything, but that depends on you. And we try and do this in a way that doesn't allow our bias, our ideas to sort of be injected in place of yours. It's really about figuring out what do you want and then helping you get there in the long term, as well as helping you sort of triage, right? Sort of deal with the today, which it may be that I need to find a summer job of some kind because I need to get money. But ultimately what I want to do is this kind of practice, right? And we'll think in parallel tracks, and we're happy to do that. You got to activate your network. So one of the things is, I don't know if you guys have heard about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So Kevin Bacon's gotten to be a pretty old movie guy now. He's sort of my generation, but there's this running joke, right? That within, you can get to any other person in the world with 6 intervening steps from Kevin Bacon, just because he's been in so many movies with so many other people who are somehow connected to essentially everyone else in the world. And so my recommendation is this, is write down the list of everyone you know. And it's not everyone you know day to day, but if there's anyone who you keep in touch with, maybe even every 6 months, it could be someone you went to 2nd grade with, just write them down in an Excel spreadsheet, right? Just name. And you will be amazed at how long that list is. And sometimes you will find connections you forgot about. But also remember that it's not just lawyers who can be great connections in finding a gig. It's not just faculty. It's not just people in the legal world, but it may be someone who's in business, or someone who works at a nonprofit, or someone who just knows someone who does one of those things. And until you list them out, you really don't realize that there's something magical that happens when you put them down on a sheet of paper. The Kevin Bacon part of that, right, is not just those connections who may connect other people, but I also recommend you start a second list, just skip a column and then write it down, of all the people you'd want to know, right? Maybe it's the head of this practice area at a firm, or maybe it's the attorney general, or maybe it's someone else who does something else. List those people out. Those are the people I want to know. And you'll discover is you'll start to see connections as you move forward between the list of people you know and the people I want to know list. And that could be a huge, huge resource. So make sure you activate your network. And by the way, in activating your network, that don't feel weird about reaching out to someone, right? This is how everyone who's on this call from the panel side has gotten where they are. Is yes, they've worked really hard, but they've also, part of the reason they've worked hard, or the value of having worked hard, is they built relationships, and they call on those relationships all the time, right? And you're not asking someone to buy something, you're asking someone to help you. And the idea is you're going to be willing to help them back, right? So it's not just a pay it forward, it's a pay it back mentality. And that's really, really important that we all help each other here. You'll also find that senior attorneys love to have someone call them and just learn about their success, right? And how they did, how they got where they are in their career. And that's a great way to talk to someone. You're not asking for a job, you're just asking for advice. Everyone kind of knows you're looking for a job. And then they begin to learn about you as a person and can recommend you forward. Don't wait for an invitation, right? I know we post jobs on 1220. I also recommend you use sites like Indeed.com. But if there's somewhere you want to work, give them a call. See if they have an opportunity. At a minimum, see if you can sit down and talk to them about their success, and it may evolve into an opportunity. Most jobs are never posted. They're filled by word of mouth. So make a short list, give them a call. And if you have anxiety about that, or you don't know how to do that, call me. I've done that a ton. Call Jacqueline, call Heidi. Like, we can walk you through that process. Professor Holbrook as well. And then leverage the CDO. So all the time we're getting in emails, we're getting communications from firms, we're hearing from the bar, from faculty. So if we don't know what you're looking for and that you're looking, and it comes across our desk, we may not be able to highlight it for you. And right now, with all of the email and all of the other demands on you, our ability to highlight something for you may be really, really helpful. So here is a sample outreach letter, again, for the 1Ls and 2Ls. And you're just talking, again, about who you are, that you're interested in considering options, and that you just like their advice as you make the best choices going forward in your career. So you haven't directly asked for a job. So why would you do that, right? You want a job. Why don't I just say I want a job? Because then you put them in a position where they may have to say no, right? They may say we're not hiring, which may be true. It may also be that they don't want to meet you, be it by Zoom or by phone, and then have to reject you. So you've taken the pressure off them. the most important thing is to get that meeting, to get that chance to talk and just learn about who they are. And you can always do the phrase of on the phone of saying, you know, obviously I'd love to work at a firm like yours, but what I'm really trying to figure out is how did you succeed in your career? And you've planted the seed, and who knows, they may circle back to you. But as you build that network, they may also be able to refer you forward. And that's a huge thing to have. Then here's the 3L version of the same thing. Now, of course, we're going to want to talk, and we won't get the final details on the new Supreme Court rule until sometime next week, we think. But this is the basic outline of an email that might work for that, right? And you're saying, hey, I could come in and bring you value immediately on day one. And day one is now not sometime in October when I get my bar results or September. Day one is, you know, some date in late May or early June as soon as I'm certified, and begin to bring real value to them. And then, so what if it doesn't fit? That's why we're here, right? In fact, none of the scenarios we've described fit everyone. They're going to adjust based on who you are and what your needs are. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and say, hey, this is my unique situation. This is my unique challenge. It may be a lot like one of the ones we described, but not perfectly. That's why we're here, right? We can help you tailor your plans to make sure that they align. And we can also open you up to new ideas for career opportunities. And then here's our contact info. And this appears every day in the Daily Digest. The link to this presentation will appear in the Daily Digest. We'll make sure we get that over to those folks. And with that, I still haven't seen any questions. I don't think I'm that good of a public speaker. Maybe everyone has left the room. No, there's a bunch of people in the room. So do any of you have any questions for us? Do you want to type them in the window? We'll hold on for a little bit. Otherwise, we practiced a dance routine, but I got to tell you, it's not very good. So, and it's not terribly synchronized. So, you know, you probably don't want to see me doing high kicks.
I'm dragging down the team.
Yeah, you are. You know, clearly I am. How are we doing? I didn't, you know, how are we doing? Oh, all right. So we've been at it for about a half hour, which is about how long I thought those slides would take. So guys, I know it's a lot of information. We're going to stick around for just a couple more minutes. If you guys have any questions, also feel free to reach out to us individually. And I don't know, maybe, well, we got a few minutes, so maybe everyone should just reintroduce themselves in case they haven't met you. Why don't we start with Ezzy, actually.
Hello. For people who don't know me, I'm just the fellow. I've also been helping do some help. If you guys need any help with, you know, talking to a student, obviously you should feel comfortable talking to everybody with career development. But if you want to just like quick questions you want to talk about, I'm also available.
And Ezzy is not just the fellow, she's a total star in the office. And like, and really sort of this presentation really started with her saying, hey, talking to students, I think this would be really helpful for us. So, so she's huge. Heidi, do you want to say hello?
Absolutely, I do. I'll put my
Heidi?
back on. I don't know if there's anyone who actually doesn't know me. So if you don't know me, I'd be shocked. You probably don't actually go to our school. So I'm suspicious of your attendance. Yeah, I just work at CDO, and I was a former student recently, so I know the biz.
So Heidi just graduated last year, right?
Yeah.
And so literally has sat where many of you are sitting very, very recently, and is incredibly well connected and well regarded and loved. And so oftentimes she's like, oh, I know someone at this firm who does that thing, or I know someone who knows about that, and can give you a connection. And maybe it's just someone to talk to. Maybe there's an actual job there, but definitely reach out. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Professor Holbrook.
I'm the Director of Special Projects for the office, and I've been looking at what law firms are doing both nationally and trying to find out what is happening locally. Nationally, in big law, things are changing quickly, dramatically. Locally, we've been getting information that firms are waiting to see what's happening before making decisions. I've been paying attention to what economists are saying about the economy. As Arturo mentioned, the majority of economists think that this is going to be a structural change, which will take several years to sort out. There's another group that thinks that with the Congress putting in 2.2 trillion and probably more, things will be tough for the next 6 months, but that the economy is structurally in good shape and will come back. And then there's a group that's, I think, the minority, which believes that things will come roaring back within a year. So as Arturo mentioned, it really is uncertain what's going to happen. I think we just need to be patient and be prepared.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Professor Holbrook has a storied career. He is among the most highly regarded attorneys in the state. I have not walked into a conversation since I've arrived where when I mention his name, people are like, oh no, yeah, we love Professor Holbrook or Jim Holbrook. People who know him, he's been involved in some of the biggest deals and other items, literally knows everyone and is a font of resources and information about how to be a professional, how to practice, not only just on the career side, but frankly, how to really succeed and how to be an integral part of this community, which is often the most critical step between just being a relatively effective lawyer and being a great lawyer, right? It's that ability to connect with people. So don't hesitate to reach out to him. He is an amazing resource, and you're incredibly fortunate to have him available to you. Jacqueline?
Luckily for me, I haven't had to delve into too much of the research since Arturo and Jim have been taking on a lot of that, because I think I would have to be put in a straight jacket at this point after, having a total 180 in the last couple of months. So I've actually had the fun part, which has been getting to reach out to so many of you. And I was just telling the team this yesterday, but so many of the students I've talked to over all 3 classes have shown such amazing resilience and positive attitudes in light of the challenges that you guys are facing. And it's a pleasure to know so many of you and to get to visit with you. And we truly mean what we say. Keep in touch with us. Let us know if you need anything at all. Also, I'm running the Tuesday night movie nights. We're gonna watch kind of a science fiction, kind of zombie-ish science fiction movie tonight. So join us. We'll be watching that at 8. It's so fun to visit with some of you online during those as well. So, but I mean, you know me, but if you don't, I should have probably introduced myself, but I'm Jacqueline. I'm the Associate Director for the Career Development Office, and just keep us updated on what your needs are and if there's anything that we in the office can do to serve you.
So, and then, so to little chime in on Jacqueline. So Jacqueline actually worked at the school through the last recession and has seen this sort of thing in detail at SJQ. And so she's an amazing resource in that regard. Likewise, she has known essentially every graduate who's walked out of the door in that time and has a huge body of people she could connect with. So an invaluable resource for you. She also runs the MLS program. So, and that's actually helpful for you guys because she's looking at this and advising people not just from the standpoint of being a JD, but also an MLS, which leaks into sort of those JD Advantage positions. And so make sure you tap into her as a resource. She's truly amazing and so another incredible person. And collectively here, there are decades of experience you're looking at, so take advantage of us. With that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Some of you may have already left, and this will be recorded. So thank you for everything. I'm waving goodbye, and in just a few seconds, we're gonna go, Lance, you could go ahead and turn it off.
Thank you, Arturo.
Thanks, everybody.
Jacqueline, Ezzy, Jim, Lance.
Bye.